Hey everybody, hey everybody. So this is the talking segment of this, but the point is that I actually wanted to show you that I'm doing a puzzle. Like, when last have you seen a puzzle? So I wanted to talk about something that has been quite in my heart, and I was thinking maybe it would be useful for somebody to listen into this. I'm a talker, I'm a yapper. I'm really thinking of doing a podcast because I'm a yapper, but this just came really strong in my heart, and it's the topic of soul wounds. Last year I had started something called Knit Together, which is a burden that I received from the Lord about the fact that as people we tend to have wounds, and that is actually making us struggle to relate with Him as the Father, and secondly to relate in the world, and how these things kind of happened, how these things came about is usually from inception. And from inception until the time that you are and you've lived in the world, you've probably experienced some kind of wounds which have happened in the soul. And how I would first begin to define the soul is that the soul is your will and your emotions. I could be missing one of the three, but I'll just put the definition right over there. And that is what the soul is. And most of us live in our souls. It's your mind, will, and emotions, yes. Most of us live in our souls, and most of us struggle to kind of go into a spiritual place because we are mostly living within our souls. Of course, you're living in your body, but your soul is the one that defines, and that's where you are in your mind most of the time. You're feeling emotions all the time, and your will, right? So I have been one of the candidates of somebody who has felt and has seen how my inception, like how I came up, how I was brought up, has affected the way that I think and how I move and how I operate in the world. And I have also further seen how it affects my relationship with children of God, and most importantly with God. And so a lot of people don't understand why, especially Christians don't understand why people are, especially non-Christians don't understand why we're doing this, like being in relationship with God and this and that. By the way, I'm just waiting for this to dry. If I haven't given that preface, that's why it looks like this. But yeah, so why are we relating to a God that is, not there, it doesn't exist? And I get it, I was there. I was definitely there. I was also one of the people that was like, my life is my life. I don't want anybody to tell me what to do. And I realized that actually came from somewhere, right? So you exist and you live in the world, but it's governed by the spiritual world, which is something that if you're not privy to that information, you might never even think that this is something to consider about how your life is. Your life is not just happening on the natural realm. And so I'm kind of defining and saying a lot of different things, but I really am saying all of those to say as a preface on soul wounds, right? So the primary reason why you need to know where you are wounded in your soul is because that is going to help you in terms of finding the root of some of the problems that you're having, some of the difficulty in terms of settling yourself in anything and everything. This affects everything, like work, school, friends, everything that your life is, even how you live with yourself, how you take care of yourself. All of these things they don't start with you now sitting and thinking about it. It started somewhere. And wounds are defined as like basically something that took place and caused a mark. And from that mark, you are now living your life, right? And why being a child of God and being a Christian becomes so important is that you can get a new ligament, a new heart, a new mind. You know, as you are renewed in your mind, you're transformed in your heart, you know, you might not be able to live your life with the existing wounds that you have. Not to say that you shouldn't. You are not a person that lived within your past, you know, and those things inform and can be teachable moments for a person. However, when we live from our wounds, we tend to get stuck, and some of those things don't allow you to move on in your life, to relate with people in such a way that, you know, you are fruitful. It doesn't allow you to move on in terms of just being able to be a thriving person that you were meant to be, purposeful and purpose-filled person that you were meant to be, because you were stuck in past versions of yourself. And so one of the ones that I wanted to talk about primarily today is the one of not feeling good enough, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. This is one that I have struggled with for almost as early as I can remember. I struggled with not feeling worthy or good or able, you know, and the first time that I would see it is when I would be in class and they would ask us like, what do you think? And I'd just like not put my hand up. I wouldn't contribute. There were certain things that I remember started that, you know, there was one boy in my class one girl in preschool, she slapped me to look cool. I don't know. And I knew that day and that time that I couldn't speak for myself. I couldn't defend myself. I don't know why. That's what I decided, but that's what I decided. Okay, this person just did this to me, and so I have to just take it. And that happened again in grade 1. And yes, so basically talking about that experience that I had when I was like in grade 1, when I started now feeling like getting bullied basically, and not being able to stand up for myself at that very point began something in me that I did not realize. But also just like how and what made you to feel like you are allowed to do that. So I grew up in a 2-parent household. Though my parents are divorced, I did grow up in a 2-parent household. However, I was always looking and seeking the approval of my mother and my father, but primarily my mom. And I wanted to always be called the good girl. But I was also shy, and very early on, guys, as early as I can remember, I didn't want to play on the playground with other kids because I was always alone. So I grew up in the house, and you know, I just learned very early on, like, okay, I don't know how to play this game, so I'm not gonna play it. If I'm not absolutely perfect at this, I can't do it. Crying in grade 2 because like they gave me an instruction and I wanted to execute it the way that I wanted to execute it. My parents couldn't help me, and I got a very, very mid, almost very terrible mark. Like perfectionism was like my core problem. And so basically all of those things, and I can't touch on each and every incident, they made up the person that I am, right? And so now, sorry, it was really deep in there. Also saying sorry all the time. I don't know why we do that. We need to ask ourselves why we're always saying sorry. What are we actually sorry about? You're sorry that you're showing up. You're sorry that you're doing something. You're sorry about what exactly? Being present, talking, speaking, laughing loud. Why are you apologizing for that? Being afraid to be in the space in which you are in, you know, or apologizing constantly. Those are some of the things, the signs of not feeling good enough, worthy enough. And so basically I'm showing you where it started, how it can show up in your life. The worst things, as a business person, as a businesswoman, being afraid to charge, not wanting to charge the right prices, being the minute you get rejected, it's like, oh my word, that's a rejection of me, you know. And that's how you show up, not greeting certain people or speaking to certain people that you think are too big or too high up or this or that. Already creating, distinguishing and separating yourself from people because of whatever, looking and listening to what other people are doing and saying and thinking, oh, I could probably never do that, I could never do that because of how I feel or how I look or whatever, you know. I can't wear that, I can't be on YouTube because of how I speak. It's all these different things that now show up in our lives, and basically we show up as like not the versions of ourselves in which we are supposed to. And also we are convinced that keeps cutting because I don't have space. So now that we know that, right, now that we know that it starts from growing up, and then you're convinced and you grow, and certain things in your life as you continue to grow convince you or show up and prove to you that in fact you are not good enough for certain spaces, you are not good enough for certain things, you can't put your hand up, you can't do this, you can't do this, you are not that, you are not this, all these things that happen in your brain, né? Now you are supposed to, right? You're supposed to, but you can't. I can't be in a relationship because Mina, whatever. I can't do this because Mina, whatever. I can't run because I am. This brain, this mind that you live with, that you're supposed to go out and shine forth and be a king, a priest, you know, you can't do all those things because of your brain and your mind and the thoughts and the self-limiting thoughts that you have about the fact that you are not worthy of love, you are not worthy to show up, you are not worthy to do this, do that, do that. When somebody says something, when somebody says, oh, something happens that proves that, then you live in that. So I think I'm basically building the point to say that if you are that person, then you have this wound. And this is a wound that I really, really feel like it needs to come out of us, right? We can't live like that. It has to be uprooted, because if you live like that, you will never give yourself permission to show up and be there. Other ways that I've seen it manifest is like even how you eat, how you wash yourself, clean yourself, steward yourself, you know, as a person. It's what you listen to and all of those things, right? So my reason to bring this up is because there is a solution, but many people think it's like, it's far, you know, it's like far, right? What I'll start to do, and I'm on this journey as well, I'd start to pray about it. Ask God to help you. If you don't pray and stuff like that, I recommend you try praying. I'm on this journey as well. And what I'm saying is that pray about it. Firstly, find out who you are. Because the idea that you are less than, it's not true. So find out firstly who you are. Secondly, find out all the things that have confirmed to you that you are not that. All the situations, circumstances, all the things, basically, from where the inception is. Find the root. Okay, so now you would have done your homework on who you are, finding who you are, because just knowing who you are is also paralyzing. Like, I am called to be this, I'm called to be this. It's paralyzing when you don't know, or basically if you're still struggling with this thing, because you won't come up to this place. You will always feel like, but just know, write your homework, do that, you know, put that to the side. And that's a process, and that could take time. That could be prayer, that could be fasting, reading, that could take time. But let's just say we give it a month that we're doing this. In the first week, that's what you would do. You would only just find out who you are. Find out who you are. Look and think about when you think about your talents, your gifts. What are the things you used to enjoy when you were a kid? Sit and listen to your prayers. or listen to what comes up in your mind when you think about what did I enjoy, what are the things I used to do, who am I, da da da. Find it, and then know and define who you are. Then now we're going to go to part 2, which is finding all the instances that prove that you are not that, right? So we are just trying to find the root of that. This is a difficult process, and this is the part that I think a lot of us just kind of get out of, because it's very difficult to sit in it, right? All the things, all the situations, things like rape, right? Things like your parents abusing you, speaking to you, or somehow being bullied as a kid into doing this, how you were spoken to, how you ended up doing and getting into particular addictions, particular relationships. All of those things will be now like basically a body of work or body of information that you can kind of refer back to. I don't know if I can say information, but like that's what you now need to come into and begin to come against, but that you need to come to those things and realize. Now we get to this 3rd stage, and now the third stage is basically where I feel like we now integrate everything. I have not gotten here because I usually leave right at this stage. I usually don't know what to do because I'm so overwhelmed with how and what I feel at this particular stage. There was one January I was doing an introspection, and I was thinking, being an older daughter was part of the difficult things that I had to do that I struggled with. And then being a deputy mom, always feeling like I have to rise up to a particular place of responsibility and never ever feeling good enough in doing the things that I was doing. I cried because it feels like I can't even let go of that responsibility. I just have to be that. But there were so many times where I felt like I just wanted to be a child. I sat in that, and it felt so unfair. Like, why? Why did I have to go through that? Another thing that happened to me that I've mentioned before was also just like a coercion that happened to me at multiple stages in my life, a sexual encounter that was a coerced sexual encounter that proved again that my voice is irrelevant. I don't need to speak. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that because no one cares, and they're going to do whatever they want to do in any case. So again, those were some of the heartbreaking things that happened to me, and I know with other people, everybody has their different instances and situations that they basically led them to not believe that they are not worthy, they are not enough, they are not good, they are not that, they are not this. But it's a deception from the pits of hell, and it needs to be dealt with. So now once we get out of here, which is what I want to do as well, is I read this book, Inner Healing. I'll show it, and it was written by a woman who was basically helping people, therapizing people, but praying for people. And there was a method in which you visualized almost God or Jesus Christ walking into your memories and beginning to take those things out, or get like removing that, so I think it's a journey in which I want to kind of get into, want to learn about. But she prayed, and she did, like many people got delivered from demons that just sat, they never left them, they just sat there, and yeah, it's really heartbreaking to consider that we live in this state and we live like that forever and ever. I was just praying literally yesterday about it, and the scripture that God brought me to was 2 Corinthians, I don't know, where it speaks about His grace is sufficient, and where you are weak, He is strong. And there's something that one of my sisters, when I shared to her, some of the struggles that I've been having recently, she said, no, there's power in the tongue, there's confession. And all of this really feels like Christian jargon, guys. But the truth of the matter is that people are struggling. I'm struggling. We are struggling as people. We need to hold on to something that is not ourselves, because us in ourselves, we have been struggling for so long, you know. So yeah, that's my counsel. That's what I'm going to try to do. I'm gonna go on this journey as well the next 4 weeks. Pray that I will get to the end, because another thing about not feeling good enough is that you don't even finish your goal. You don't even do the things you're supposed to be doing, or you start and you don't finish, because it's like, well, it doesn't really, I'm not really worth it anyway. You know, I'm not really worth being chosen. I'm not really worth being counted on. I don't even count upon myself. How destructive is that? So the stage of praying, visualizing, getting the Holy Spirit involved, going into those deeper wounds, those deeper places, and then once that is done, confessing, oh yes, what God is in your life, but also reminding and speaking to yourself all the things that it's what I recommend, what I think I'm definitely going to do. I'm doing the puzzle, still doing the puzzle, but for now I'm gonna go work on other things, and then I'll come back and we'll debrief as I build upon this puzzle.